This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you? You have stolen my dreams and my childhood with your empty words, and yet I'm one of the lucky ones. People are suffering. People are dying. Entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you?
That was an incredibly important message by Greta Thunberg, the teenage climate activist from Sweden who has inspired millions, along with all young people who have been protesting for climate justice. But what was crucial here was, the fact that she was angry. And that's super important because young people, really all of us, but young people especially, have a right to be super angry about the state of affairs as it concerns climate. 100%. But what's very, very, very important to note here is that so many of the people cheering on Greta Thunberg are the ones who are the problem. Sure, there's a lot of right-wingers of various types. There's Maxime Bernier here in Canada. There's a lot of Trumpers down south who criticize Greta Thunberg, mocking her or saying that she's a stooge or what have you. And those people have been rightly pilloried for doing that. But there's another kind of person that's basically trying to exploit Greta Thunberg, but not actually honor the action she's calling for. And a lot of them are like neoliberals, Democrats on the right wing of that party, the Liberal Party here in Canada, who celebrate Greta Thunberg, who are like, oh, Greta, she's so inspiring, and young people are so inspiring. And meanwhile, they're building goddamn pipelines. They're rejecting Green New Deals. They're, putting marginalized communities at the forefront of environmental racism, and on and on and on. And it's like Greta's talking about you guys. Like Catherine McKenna, Justin Trudeau, all of you neoliberals, they're talking about you. Chelsea gosh darn Clinton was like, Greta, thanks for inspiring us. In this message, Greta talks about fairy tales of economic growth, and she talks about, putting money before the environment. And many of these people are multi-millionaires. And it's like, no, you're the problem. You're the problem here. You have gotten rich directly or indirectly off climate injustice. And now we have literal children having to tell us what's what. And the people who are of the neoliberal center, that technocratic neoliberal center, who cheer Greta Thunberg on, are really part of the problem. And in many ways, they're a bigger part of the problem than the far right, because the far right are who they are. They are abhorrent. They are monstrous. They deserve to be in the dustbin of history, but they are who they are. They attack Greta Thunberg. They mock her. They point at her Asperger syndrome. They, make allusions to totalitarian Germany. They do whatever it takes to take down this 16-year-old. And it creates a real backlash. And people sympathize with her. In many ways, Greta Thunberg's open enemies are the best tool Greta Thunberg has, because she can counterbalance that and gain more support. But it's her neoliberal fawners, her disingenuous fawners, that are the real danger. The people who cheer her on and then do nothing to support her. The Liberal government here in Canada, who celebrates young climate activists like Greta Thunberg on the one hand, but builds pipelines on the other. Or celebrates the climate strikes on the one hand, but violates workers' right to strike on the other. Or celebrates, bold environmental policy, quote unquote, but criticizes parties like Jagmeet Singh's NDP when they actually do have bold climate policies. And so Greta is talking about them. And Greta is very gracious. She's not necessarily going to make this a partisan affair. I get why she's doing that. I get it. I really do. She's not interested in that, and I don't know if that's her approach. Whether or not we agree with it or not, that's her approach. And I'm not going to tell somebody who's done such a great job how to approach her mission. But we have to realize that all of these people are trying to neutralize Greta Thunberg by saying they support her and then doing nothing to support her. They are the people who deserve to hear how dare you. Sure, Donald Trump, the right-wingers, sure, they're worse. They are. They're literal climate deniers in some cases. But here's the thing. The effect of Justin Trudeau's policies and the right-wing Democrats' policies is to be climate deniers. They may not deny the science, but they deny the conclusions that the science, pushes us towards. And frankly, even some of us on the left need to do better to push for stronger climate goals that dislodge us from this pursuit of money, dislodge us from this pursuit of growth at all costs, dislodge us from, and maybe Greta wouldn't put it this way, a certain sense of capitalism, or capitalism broadly defined. That the climate future requires us to not only, decarbonize, but to change the underlying economic systems that encourage growth at the expense of human survival and human, amelioration in these times. She's right. People are suffering, sometimes worse, especially in parts of the world that are disproportionately filled with racialized people and poor people. And this is not a time for people to applaud Greta in front of her and then do everything they can to stop her vision, but in the back rooms. And that's what neoliberals are doing. That's what they're doing. And so Greta Thunberg is an inspiration to millions of us, but I have to let you know that most of the people who are cheering her on are the enemies Greta Thunberg is talking about. They are the ones. So don't let Chelsea Clinton and Catherine McKenna and Justin Trudeau and all of these neoliberals try to tie themselves to Greta Thunberg. I will remind you that Greta Thunberg, for instance, praised Canada's government for declaring a climate emergency, but said it's rather counterproductive to have a climate emergency and then build a pipeline, in the same day to have those two projects connected. You can't do both. And so she has been bold enough to call out these governments. These governments don't support her. They oppose her. They only say they support her because their political mission benefits from it. The far right, they gain benefit from being outlandish anti-climate science. The neoliberal center, they have to follow the same basic path, which is towards our climate catastrophe. They can't sound like it because the average centrist and progressive voter thinks that's madness, and they're right. So Greta, I want to thank you, and I want to apologize to you. You're right. You shouldn't have to have this leadership role, and you shouldn't have to have your message filtered and neutralized by disingenuous neoliberals.